Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
All right, Vikings Vent Line, the last off-season edition. We had a little bit of a pause there with preseason games, but this is the last off-season episode of Vikings Vent Line. I've had a blast talking to as many Vikings fans as possible throughout these last 9 months or so. This time, next week, we'll be doing a regular season Vent Line for the first time in about 9 months. Very excited for that. Hit the like button and subscribe button for daily Vikings entertainment. Vikings Vent Line will roll immediately after Week 1 concludes between the Vikings and the Giants. We'll have a little bit of a new twist, too, on Vikings Vent Line. We'll kind of announce some of those details. I'll let Mackie Judd and myself announce those details in the coming days leading up to Vent Line. It's still going to be the same show. Don't worry about it. But we'll have a couple little tweaks to the offense there. By the way, Vikings Vent Line, sponsored by our friends at Underdog Fantasy with the football season here. If you already have a fantasy football league, maybe you're looking to get in one at the last second, you can play them every week basically at Underdog Fantasy. Promo code SCORE gives you a 50% deposit match plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash. So if you'd like to send me any of those winning teams that you have a good pick'ems that absolutely hit, send them my way. The YouTube link also just in the bio below us, too, if you'd like to join Underdog Fantasy. They've been a blast. They're one of my favorite things to use. Shout out to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring programming here on Score North and Purple Daily. Vikings Vent Line. Very excited to talk to Kirk and Nick here, so let's get these guys in. Kirk, Nick, what's going on? Welcome to Vikings Vent Line.
Hey, thanks for the show invite. Appreciate it as always.
And Kirk, you were on like a year ago this time. You're down in the Tampa area. So remind me again, how did you become a Vikings fan?
Well, I grew up in Minnesota, and I probably haven't missed a single game since the '94 season. But I remember, watching a few of the Wade Wilson, Sean Salisbury games from like 92, 93. Yeah. Creeping up on 40, like Mackie. So been a long time fan, and it's just been a long drought. And I love the mantra of the show. Let's win one before we die. Absolutely.
Nick, what about you, man? Are you in Minnesota? Are you somewhere else where you residing from, and how long have you been a Vikings fan?
So I've been a Vikings fan my whole life. I'm 23. I am from the New York, New Jersey area. So I have not grown up in Minnesota or anything like that. Unfortunately, my father made me become a Vikings fan. It's been a rough life. It's definitely been a rough life. But, there's not many Viking fans around here. A lot of it is Giants, Jets, Eagles, stuff like that. So I actually just went to the Eagles preseason game.
Okay.
I was in the front row. I got there around 2 hours early. I thought I was late at first because I wanted to try and get to the front to try and talk to the players and maybe even, Kevin O'Connell. So I was able to get to the front. There was no one there. Like I expected, there weren't many Viking fans there. But it was more crowded than I thought it would be. But I was able to get to the front. I was able to get this is Christian Darisol's signature.
Oh, nice. Very cool, dude.
And this is Kevin O'Connell right here.
Nice. Hell yeah. Are you going to go to week 1?
Yeah, so it was definitely good, though. It was just definitely good. I'm going to the Giants game.
Okay, sweet. Heck yeah. That'll be awesome, man. Well, boys, let's jump into it here.
I'm not sure if I can hear you, Dex, by the way.
Can you not hear me? Can you hear me now, Nick? 1, 2, 3, 4.
No, I still don't think I can hear you.
Okay. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna mute you, Nick, just in case your mic gets over. But let us know. Shoot me a thumbs up if you hear us. But Kirk, I'll start with you here. What are you most looking forward to this season for the Vikings?
I kind of have 3 buckets. So I put offense, defense, and special teams there. So I'll just go the first one. Like on offense, I'm like, the record might not be that great this year, but if you can root for something, JJ going for 2,000 yards plus receiving would be pretty cool to watch. Yeah. For the defense, Leroy, Drake Rodriguez, and Dallas Turner. So I'm like, hey, can they really generate a pass rush? So that's what I'm interested in watching there. And then, I had to pick something for Deck's favorite topic here, the kicker. I want to see him just nail like 90+% of all his kicks. So that way, if like next year's the year, right, that you guys keep talking about, I'm like, we got someone that's not going to choke when it matters.
Dude, It's even look. I didn't go to the University of Minnesota. I'm the farthest thing from a Gopher football or Gopher athletics fan. But even yesterday with the Gopher football team losing that one with the shanked kick, it was kind of like poetic of just a Minnesota kicker missing a game-winning kick, pooch kick that probably should have gave them the win. It's kind of hopefully not foreshadowing. But yeah, I mean, I think Will Reichard just being like the prodigy and being like a guy who's kicked his whole life, I think that stuff matters. And you'd like, just like the Vikings, you'd like to think that they could win a Super Bowl after having all these accolades and success. You'd also like to think they finally have stumbled upon a good kicker for once, at least consistently. So, but kickers are volatile. They're only as good as their last made kick, and we'll see there. But I mean, on your other actual offensive things, Justin Jefferson having a big year, I think that's going to be awesome. I think they'll just kind of force feed him like crazy. Like they may as well. We'll see what Addison's status is for week 1, and they haven't really decided on the suspension thing, if that's even going to happen yet. It might even be a thing that happens and lingers into 25. But I mean, are you good with Sam Darnold, Kirk, kind of being the quarterback 1 here, and do you trust him to be the quarterback 1?
I mean, I think the stats tell it all. So under pressure, is he going to be able to make some of those tough throws? Like whether you're a Cousins lover or a hater, I'm like, for the most part, like he'd take it in the face and, zip it out there. So that's what I'm worried about. Does he just have those Sam Darnold ghost meltdowns from the time of the Jets? And I mean, I get it. It's a team game. And if I was worried about like the pressure up the middle, I mean, our 2 guards and our center are just kind of very average. I know our stats say, the line is pretty good, but like the eye test, they don't open holes and they get pushed back all the time.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm worried about. Him taking pressure immediately up the middle and just having some Nick Mullins games.
Yes, that could also be bad. Nick, do you got me okay now?
I hear you good now. I don't know what happened.
Okay, all good, man. Glad you figured it out. You didn't pull a Kirk Cousins and line up, behind the wrong guard there. You got the right thing going with your offense. What are you most looking forward to this season, though, Nick? What's that thing you're most excited to watch with the Vikings this year?
So I'm looking forward to a couple things. First and foremost, I was looking forward to seeing JJ. That was unfortunate what happened with him. I'm wearing my JJ jersey right here.
Yeah.
The one thing I should say I'm looking forward to the most is definitely what Sam Darnold is able to do. I've just like Thor Nystrom, I am a huge JJ supporter. I think there's something about him. It's, he's different. He's got like a nice leadership quality to him. I know we're Viking fans and stuff, but I'm telling you, I think this is our guy. I think JJ is our guy. I think he's going to be the guy to lead the team to, dare I say, a Super Bowl. But I really do think he's the guy. But I'm excited to see Sam Darnold fill in for him here. I know JJ wasn't supposed to start to begin with, but I am a little worried about Sam Darnold just because, I know he was in trouble situations back with the Jets and the Panthers. But, I mean, at the end of the day, I am excited to see what he can do. I think him and Addison have shown a real connection in camp with him throwing the deep balls to him. Him and Jefferson definitely have a connection too. But I think I have confidence in Kevin O'Connell in what he can do with Sam Darnold. And I will say this to the Viking fans. I think that, listen, we paid this guy $10 million to play this year. It sucks that JJ McCarthy is not out there. But at the end of the day, we paid this guy $10 million and, I'm sure we should see what he has, and when a guy's back is up against the wall here, I think you're going to get the best out of Sam Darnold, because Sam knows this is pretty much his best shot he's going to get. So you're going to get the absolute best out of Sam Darnold. So, I'm not a huge Sam Darnold supporter, but I do believe that he could do well for us this year. So for the people who are, really scared about him, I would just say, that's definitely something to be excited about, because Sam's going to give you his all, because he knows this is his really last shot,
Absolutely. Yeah, you'd like to think that, with Kevin O'Connell around him and good weapons, that maybe he can have a little bit of a renaissance, still stick around in the league, whether that's with the Vikings or without the Vikings after 2024. Yes, J.J. McCarthy's the heir apparent, and yeah, big buzzkill that he gets injured and will miss the entire year, but we'll see what they got in Sam Darnold, and for better or worse, they'll ride with him. I guess, Kirk, what are you concerned about going into this season? What, is outside of Darnold and maybe some other things, is there anything else that kind of pops up to you that you kind of look sideways at for this year's Vikings team?
Well, I'm going to talk about something I did last year. Like we talked about the defense, getting a boost from going from Donashell to, something that's actually aggressive in Brian Flores. And I was like, hey, the team needs to finish like with a plus 20 turnover ratio. And I'm like, that would be amazing. Obviously last year it was the complete opposite of that. We didn't really force that many turnovers. I think we got 22. So like 11 picks, 11 fumbles. But then the offense, I think we fumbled going to the end zone like every week for the first 4 or 5 weeks. We finished the season with like 34 or 35 turnovers. It was massive. So that puts you at a -12. -12 is not getting in the playoffs. And if it is, you're not going anywhere. So Connell needs to actually grow a pair. And like when somebody fumbles 3 times in the game, like Madison would do, they need to bench his butt. I'm like, it's kind of ridiculous. So turnovers, that is something I'm concerned about. Darnold's going to throw some picks. Yeah. Nick Mullins is going to throw some picks, right? Can we not fumble? And then can the defense force a few more takeaways so we can get that ratio to maybe like plus 10, plus 20 was probably a little aggressive, but I'm like, remember the Saints in 2009 when they won the Super Bowl, which I hate that team. I used to feel bad for them. I'm ranting. I apologize. But I felt bad because they always stunk. And then they finally got Drew Brees and they were good. And I'm like, okay, every city deserves a chance, right? But, with the bounty gate. But at the end of the day, that defense wasn't good that won the Super Bowl. They just forced a lot of turnovers. It was just nonstop turnovers. So if we can get there, right, I think we hit the other measures. Like I was worried about the run. We were like top 10 in yards per carry against, which didn't always look like that because some games we got gashed. But yeah, the turnovers. So my long-winded answers is basically turnovers on offense and defense. We need to be a much bigger ratio on the plus side this year.
Yeah, and that's a statistic or a thing you can't really, like if you were good at it one year, it's not necessarily given that you'll be good at it again. It just kind of ebbs and flows, and football's a weird sport. It's an oblong ball. It falls out of people's hands all the time when it shouldn't. And you'd like to think that the Vikings were so unlucky that regression to the mean is probably inevitable for them. So whether they're, if the 2009 Saints defense is the ceiling and 2024 turnovers with the Vikings were the floor, you'd like to think that there's hopefully something in the middle there that makes it just a little bit better and they can be just a little bit more positive from that end. And yeah, just limit some turnovers. And to your point, if 4 of those touchdowns go the other way to start the year last year, you're probably looking at a Vikings team that gets off to a good start and is above 500. What player for you, or I should say to Nick, what are you most concerned about, for this Vikings season? What concerns you the most?
Well, first and foremost, I think that we are in one of, if not the toughest division in the NFL. I do think that, with the Packers and the Bears, I am excited to see, because I know Caleb Williams was the first overall pick, but I will say this. Depending on how the offense plays, I think the defense is going to be a big staple in this year's season. I think that they're going to have to do a lot of the heavy carrying because, if Sam isn't performing as well, I think the defense is really going to have to step up. So I will say I'm most concerned about the offense. I don't know. I don't know what to expect from Sam. I really don't. But I will say that I love Brian Flores. I think his scheme that he brings is amazing. It's definitely much better than the other guy, Donashell, for sure. I mean, that season was hard to watch. It's a miracle they won as many games as they did. But it was definitely exciting, and but I do think that the offense is definitely gonna worry me, and it all depends on how Sam plays. But I do think that with the division that we're in, I think the defense is gonna have to do a lot of the heavy carrying, unfortunately. But we'll see how they do with the UDFAs they signed. They've done a good job of finding some guys who are unsigned, but unfortunately in the draft itself, it's been a little bit of a struggle. I do think Kwesi this year. I give him a ton of credit for moving on from Kirk this year. I do think that was the right decision, and I think going to a younger quarterback at JJ, I think that was definitely the right decision for the future of the franchise.
It feels like if they are going to win games, to your point there, Nick, like it's going to have to be defense carrying the team. Like Aaron Jones will have to step up. They'll have to establish a running game. I think relying on Sam Darnold, even with the weapons and maybe a renaissance of him having to throw the ball all the time, is probably not going to result in a lot of wins. So they have to win kind of in unconventional 2024 ways, I should say. That's doesn't mean they can't do it, but it just means it might not be the sexiest way to go about winning football, which right now is passing it and airing the ball all over the field. I don't know if that's going to be the Vikings' MO, even with Justin Jefferson on this team.
Well, also, just to add, I think that week one, I know it's the first game of the season, but I think week one against the Giants is really going to be, and again, I'll be there, but I think it's really going to be a sign of how this season is going to go. I really do think so. If they lose against the Giants, and I think the Giants are – listen, the Giants have a very good defensive line, and that scares me. That really does scare me. I believe in Darisaw and Brian O'Neill on the sides taking care of Thibodeau and Burns. I do think they can do a pretty good job. What bothers me is Garrett Bradbury in the middle. I think he's going to have his hands full with Dexter Lawrence.
Yeah.
I think he's going to have a problem.
Yeah, he's going to get pushed around.
Yeah, I do think so. But if they lose against the Giants, or if they get blown out for that matter, that's we're in for a long season if that happens. So.
Yeah, they got to take care of business week one.
Yeah.
That Giants team is also, good defensive line, but in general, not that great of a team, and they got to absolutely take care of business against them.
I hope they can cover, neighbors too. I don't know who's going to be covering Nate. Maybe it'll be Murphy, or I don't know exactly who will be covering him, but no, I do think they're going to have their hands full with that defensive line, and Sam's going to have to. He's definitely going to have to make some plays and help out the offensive line. He's going to have to move. He's going to have to get out of the pocket. So we'll see.
Kirk, which Vikings player will surprise us the most, do you think, in 2024? Is there an under-the-radar guy? Is there even a guy that might fall off a cliff, I guess, too? You can look at it both ways if you want. But which Vikings player will surprise us the most in 2024?
I was trying to go with two positives. So on offense, I'm picking Aaron Jones just because I don't think we've had a real running back on the team since maybe like prime Delvin Cook like 4 or 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. Everybody else has been, Delvin Cook was on the decline. Madison wasn't good, and we just throwing guys in there. So I think having a guy that actually is good at all three phases, you can put him in for the entire series and don't feel like he's going to have a complete Goff at pass blocking or, catching the ball out of the backfield. I mean, how many times did Madison drop a ball last year? And instead of being like, 3rd and 5, it's 3rd and 10 because he can't just catch a 5-yard pass. So then on defense, Dwight, McLaughlin, that new corner we got in. I'm like, I feel like we're going to have to rotate all the corners because guys get injured, they fall down, they're in awkward positions, they're going in and out all the time. I'm like, he needs to come in and just be solid. You know what I mean? Like how many corners we drafted, and I mean, Trey Waynes was just a good starter, but I mean, we've put so much capital into the cornerback position, and like, honestly, Xavier Rhodes too, right? Like he was not good his first couple years. Then he had a 3-4 year window of being really good and then just fell off a cliff. And it's like, well, is Gilmore going to be the cliff season for us? Like, you know what I mean? Like he's getting old. It's going to be a, and then you got Murphy, who's very average, for the most part. And, Evans, he has flashes of being good, but at the same time, like dude can't stay on the field. He's like a concussion machine. So, my long-winded answer yet again is like, those are the two guys I'm looking forward to. I am worried about Bradbury. I mean, he's more like watch out blocks, watch out. Here's the guy coming. Put that as a sounder, right?
Yeah. That's great.
I mean, he's got a bad back and he plays center. He's got short arms and he's not strong. I mean, that's not a recipe for a lengthy career at this point. Like, I think he's had back-to-back years where he's missed multiple games because of his bad back, right? And I'm like, not good. I mean, we should have really figured out a way to draft, a center or something because who's our backup center? Because Bradbury's going to miss time this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, week one, he's like I said before, it's going to be interesting to see how he goes against because make no mistake about it, the Giants know about Bradbury, obviously. They're going to try and exploit Bradbury up the middle. And what better guy to do that than Dexter Lawrence? I mean, the guy is just absolutely massive, Dexter Lawrence. I mean, he's a strong dude. They're going to have to game plan for him with Bradbury because it could be bad.
What outside of Bradbury, Nick? What other? Do you have any other concerns we haven't talked about for this year's Vikings team?
I mean, I do think the corners are a bit interesting to me. A lot of them are a little bit older. I would like to get a little younger in the corner aspect of it. So I do worry about the corners, and I think corners a lot tend to get injured on the field, and we go through a lot of corners a lot. So I think the corners are going to be a little bit worrisome. But like I said before, the Brian Flores defensive scheme is going to help that out. I think he's going to bring a lot of blitzes. And I think a guy like, I'm not sure if you guys have really noticed this about a guy like Caleb Williams, because I can't wait to see how we play against the Bears, with all the hype of Williams. I do think Williams is good, obviously. But the question I have about Caleb Williams is that can he sit back and throw from the pocket? You see him make all these plays and stuff, but he's also going against the third stringers and the guys who are trying to make the team for that matter. But can, Caleb Williams perform under a Brian Flores scheme that's going to blitz him a lot, And so, I mean, that's something I am excited about. But as far as who I'm most excited to see in 2024, I'm excited to see Jalen Naylor. I want to see what he can do. I want to see if he can stay in the field. I want to see how good of a wide receiver 3 he can be, because he looks really fast. The guy looks like he can make cuts in while running the routes. I think he's going to be really interesting to watch. I am interested to see Dallas Turner, but it wouldn't surprise me if Dallas Turner plays really well. I kind of expect him to, especially with what we gave up for him. And Levi Drake Rodriguez. I want to see how he can play. I think that's a really good story with him. Undrafted, coming from I forgot what college he came from.
It's like Texas University, San Antonio,
Texas A&M, and Commerce.
Yeah, it was some weird Texas school.
Yeah, that was a good pickup.
I was going to say both those guys have one pass rush move, right? I feel like Rodriguez's first step, and then it's kind of like a bull rush almost, and then Turner just runs around the corner like a la Dwight Freeney. And I'm like, he needs to develop other moves. Remember Everson Griffin came in, he did the same thing all the time, and then he developed like his bull rush. And honestly, I'm like, was he on HGH? Because the guy got freaking huge. Then you do a spin move. I'm like, that. I mean, we need to see those other moves develop. One more note, I was gonna say, like, O'Connell, like, I don't know about his play calling, to be honest. And I mean, it's got to be hard when you got 3-4 quarterbacks out there. You can always nitpick the play calling when you honestly, since Zimmer, we've been leading the league or in the top echelon of 3 and out. So it's like, how do you get any like run, pass, run, when it's 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, like that makes it hard. But I mean, there was this times last year where we were doing the quarterback tush push with like, Brandon Paul on back-to-back plays. And I'm like, I'm bigger than Brandon Paul. Like, and seriously, I'm 6 foot, like 200 pounds. I'm like, what's he, like 5'8", 160? Like, not pushing anything.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin, I do believe in Kevin. I will say that if Sam Darnold performs well this year, I think you're really gonna see just how good of a coach Kevin O'Connell is. If Absolutely. Sam plays well, Kevin O'Connell is definitely the guy for this franchise. And, for us fans, I'll say, whether you like McCarthy or not like McCarthy, I'll say he's going to sit back. He's going to learn this year. I know he won't be on, playing or practicing for a little bit, but he is going to be learning. And, let's wait to see what happens once, JJ comes back with Kevin. But let's see what he can do with Sam first. I do think Sam's going to have a good year. So, I just hope that he doesn't turn into his old self with the Panthers. I mean, then again, that those teams weren't very good anyway around him. But
it's either going to be prime Jameis Winston, right? 30 picks, 30 interceptions. Start the season on a pick 6, end the season on a pick 6, or something like maybe Baker Mayfield, where for the most part he was probably above average. You give them a B minus. Like, the team didn't have a lot of talent. They had a lot of injuries. They had a ton of cap problems down here. Like, I think they were paying Brady and a lot of those guys from the Super Bowl like 50, 60 million, like dead cap last year. So I'm like, I know the NFC South, in my opinion, is kind of weak, but I'm like, drug them to a positive win ratio with less than normal ammo in the cabinet to build a team. So
totally.
Like Mackie and Judd said, I believe, like, hey, if we can get a 3rd round comp pick for him or something, awesome.
Well,
right?
he's got to play really well for that to happen, you know. Yeah. But I'll say this, guys, like, it's not the end of the world if we have a bad season. It's not. I mean, with the fact that we have our 1st round pick is oh my gosh, like, if we had given that up, like,
yeah, would have been
it's
brutal.
So I'm really thankful that we have that 1st round pick. But I mean, listen, the future's bright. You know, even if we have a bad year, we'll have a top. I mean, if they're really that bad, maybe a top 10 pick.
Right.
You know, maybe you can trade it to a team that, you know, if you don't like anybody in the first top 10 picks, maybe you could trade it to a team like, you know, the Giants, who, if Daniel Jones plays bad this year, you trade it to a team like the Giants who want to come up and get a quarterback, you know, and you get a lot of draft capital back. So it's not the end of the world if they don't play good this year, you know, and plus, you know, you got JJ coming back, your franchise quarterback, put talent around him through this next draft. So it's not the end of the world. You know, this is a prove it year, in my opinion, for Kevin O'Connell. Let's see how good you can call the plays and make a guy like Sam Darnold perform. So
before we wrap up here, boys, Kirk, any last shout outs, any last things you want to get off your chest here on Vikings Vent Line? The floor is yours.
I'll let Nick go first. I mean, I've kind of been shooting all my shots. To be honest, like, the running game, I think you guys have brought it up a lot. You know, like the offensive line, I brought it up before. I'm like, it just doesn't pass the eye test. Like, the tackles are solid. Brian O'Neill is, I mean, getting pretty old, coming off a few injuries in a row here. I mean, I think he broke his foot and then he had the partial Achilles tear. I mean, we're going to need a right tackle. Ingram is still not good. I don't know what people are watching, but I mean, he looks like he's like out of position, like a goalie, you know, blocking his guy. Like, he's always tilted the wrong direction on one leg. And I'm like, he's not good either. And I'm like, do we trade that pick? Let's say we end up 500, you know, I don't know. Is that 10 to 15 range? Do we trade back for, you know, a couple seconds? So you're like, hey, we need a center. We need a guard. You know, do we need a defensive tackle? You know what I mean? We're probably going to need a running back. I mean, we're going to have a bunch of money, right, in theory. And the problem is even if Darnold kind of balls out to a certain degree, let's say he gets a contract and you get a 4th round pick for him, if we go sign a bunch of guys, that pick's going to get erased from the whole comp measure thing. So I don't really think we're going to get any comp picks next year, to be honest. Like, even if Darnold does great, we're going to go sign guys with that $100 million of cap space and it's going to cancel out and then some. So I don't, you know, as much as we talk about that, I'm like, hey, that's not happening. I still think we got quite a few holes to fill, you know, in general. Maybe 2025 is we can take the division back type of year. I don't think we're going to run to the Super Bowl. But you never know. Hey, I'm all for it if we go to the Super Bowl, right? I'm used to. I was going to ask Nick earlier. I'm long-winded here again, but I love ranting about Vikings. Did you see 41 donut against the Giants, or was that before your time?
What was that? 2001, 2000?
Yeah, 2001. Yeah,
I was born in 2001, so
okay. I was gonna be like, that was pretty painful. Oh my god.
Yeah, my father. I mean, listen. I can easily be a Giants fan, guys. I mean, I could be a Giants fan and say I got 4 Super Bowls and then that'll be it, you know. But no, I got to be a Vikings fan. But listen, I do love this team. I've always loved this team. You know, people look at me and they're like, why are you a Vikings fan? I'm like, I love the Vikings. I just do, man. My father's been a longtime Viking fan because he liked Fran Tarkington. He was a big Fran Tarkington guy. He loved the way Fran used to run around and stuff. But I mean, yeah, no, listen, at the end of the day, you know, I am going to the Giants game. So when I went to the Eagles game, actually, I mean, I went into that game, I was like, listen, you know, I know the Philly fans can be, you know, pretty brutal sometimes, but I walked in there. I was like, listen, it's going to be fine, right? I had at least 3 or 4 people, including a police officer, say something to me about being a Vikings fan.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like joking, obviously. Oh, you think the Vikings going to win today? I had a couple people curse at me walking in. Yeah, I'm like, oh my. I was like,
take a beer in the head, you know, like
I was
sometimes.
scared that I didn't want to mess up his jersey. I thought someone was going to throw beer at it or something. I just bought it. So, yeah. So when I go to the Giants game, I might get jumped. I'm not sure. Especially if the Vikings are like really doing good, you know. But yeah, no, we'll see what happens. I like I said, I am confident in Kevin O'Connell and the way he can, make this team work this year. But again, if they turn out to be bad, you got a high first round draft pick to build around your franchise quarterback. So it's not the end of the world.
Absolutely. Boys, great stuff, guys. Great stuff here on Vikings Vent Line. Appreciate you guys bringing some great takes here, kind of putting a bow on the off-season edition of Vent Line. Of course, have the regular season edition for the next few months, so super excited for that. So hit the like button, subscribe button right here on Purple Daily. This is Daily Vikings Entertainment, where you just want to see the Vikings win a Super Bowl before we die.